This is the continuation of 9.8 notes. We left off, the video kind of ended kind of abruptly at theorem 10. The idea is these two, through it real quick. When for these like two lines that meet outside of a circle, which is called the external angles of lines, you then have to look at the outer arc and the inner arc. So the outside one, kind of, and then the in closer to the angle one. And you subtract them, and you just multiply times 1/2. So this is what it looks like for these bottom two diagrams, where it's the same concept is just drawn slightly different, where now this is a tangent line and this is something called secant line, but the idea is still that the measure of angle 2 would be outer, so SR, measure of SR, arc SR, and minus the measure of arc QR. So we would still subtract them in that order to find the measure of angle 2. For the third diagram here, same idea. These are two tangent lines that meet at a common external point. That's measure of angle 3 would be equal to 1/2 of the large arc here, BJH, measure of arc BJH minus arc BH. That's all for this outer minus inner. Okay, so that's it for the technically there's 4 theorems on this page, but the first one was a kind of a review. So the main ones for today are chord and tangent, crossing chords, and now external angles of two lines. So let's go ahead and practice this on the next page. If you want to wait, and this will be on Canvas too, so if you want to try them out first and then kind of look at the video later to see if you did them right, that's fine too. Okay, so let's go through the last page here. And the first thing here shows, and I kind of identified which one's which because there's one example of each kind. The first one is called chord and tangent because you can notice there's a tangent line and a chord drawn in, and the angle is labeled with the arc that's kind of opening up to that. So this is the one that where the point, the circle is on the circle, the text is on the circle, so it's measure of angle 1 would be 1/2 of the arc that opens up to it, so that would be the 132. And so when I multiply measure of 132 by 1/2, or just kind of cut it in half, that would be 66 degrees. So the measure angle 1 is 66 degrees. That's all. So those can be pretty simple, but you just have to memorize these different theorems. Here's the next one, external angle of two lines. So first thing we have to do there, and ignore kind of, I drew the rest of this in because we have to find measure of HFJ as well. But before we get there, just looking at this is the external angle 1, x would be equal to 1/2 outer arc minus inner arc. So outer is 170 and the inner is 72. And then once you subtract them and multiply it by 1/2, you get 49. That would be x. Then we have to figure out what is the measure of HFJ. So I did have to connect, like draw yourself that angle, HFJ. And when you draw that in, hopefully you see that the arc that creates that angle is arc HJ. And so that says 118 degrees right there. The reason that that's 118 degrees is because I have to take 360, subtract the 170 I already know, subtract the 72 I already know, and that's where I get 118 left over. So if I know that that's 118, this is an inscribed angle opening up to the 118 degrees. So this would be measure of angle HFJ is 1/2 of arc HJ, which we know is 118 degrees. And then when you multiply 118 by 1/2, or just divide it by 2, you get HFJ is 59 degrees. Okay, so that's it for that second one. Finally, the third one is that example of crossing chords. So you have two chords that cross one another, and the only angle that was labeled kind of for these inside angles was the 52 degrees right here. But if you look at the diagram, we don't know anything about the opposite arcs to that 52 degrees. Instead, we know these arcs, and so we need to figure out what this angle measure is so that I can work with the arcs that are provided. So I have to think about, what do I know about this angle? These two angles are a linear pair, so if you know that's 52, you just want to find a linear pair. These are supplementary. So if I found that that's 128 degrees, I can then use the crossing chords formula, which is, actually I don't want to measure of angle because I know it's 128 degrees, and it equals 1/2 of the two arcs that it opens up to, so x and the 144. And we're trying to find x, so we're going to solve this. You can either multiply by 2 on both sides, or you could have distributed instead. this would be x plus 144 is equal to 256, and then subtract the 144. So you find out that x is equal to 112. But now that I know x is 112, I can write my final answer as measure of arc FJ is 112 degrees. And that's it. Okay, so if you have any questions at all on any of this, please make sure you either send me an email or a remind text. I'll do my best to kind of keep up with it as best I can, because I know this is not ideal. Do the best you can, try the homework out, and of course, just kind of reach out if you have questions. All right, have a great day.